My name is Jason JROCK Houston. You guys are listening to an interview being done tonight for Under the Influence, and tonight it's my great pleasure to be speaking with guitar player Chris Manning from the Dallas, Texas based Led Zeppelin tribute band, the Hindenburg Project. Now, Chris, that's a great place to start off the interview. That's kind of a name of the band that really stood out to me. I was kind of curious how you came up with calling the project the Hindenburg Project rather than something like, Stairway to Zeppelin or Heartbreaker or something like that.
Well, I guess everybody's using, song titles and stuff, and our singer had, suggested the Hindenburg Project, and we thought it was pretty cool and unusual, so
yeah.
That's how we came up with that.
It's kind of, and again, it's kind of an original idea because it kind of makes people kind of scratch their head. Hindenburg, I wonder what that's about. But I guess the next logical question would be, could you share with us how you first got into the music of Led Zeppelin?
Well, I grew up, I have an older brother who's a drummer, and bands always came in and played at our house because he's the drummer. So
yeah.
I got exposed to classic rock at a really young age, and so Led Zeppelin happened to be one of those bands, among a lot of others.
And did you have a favorite Zeppelin album or song that really inspired you?
Their catalog is so vast, and there's so many great songs. Recently, I guess, Good Times, Bad Times, and Communication Breakdown are two of my favorites. There's so much great guitar work.
And one thing you were telling me, when we were getting this interview set up through the email, is you're sharing with me that you found it's very interesting, kind of playing the role of Jimmy Page in this band, in the sense that he's not your typical guitar player, in the sense that some of the stuff he does, you got to play with, a bow and stuff like that. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and I think it really ranges a wide range of disciplines and techniques. Luckily, I had already played slide for years leading up to this project, so I was already a decent slide player.
Okay.
Learning to play with a bow has been very interesting, and it has boiled down to finding the right bow, getting the right brand of rosin, and then when you're playing live, having just the right amount of gain, having your volume knobs on your guitar turned down just to the right number, and just making sure that your volume isn't too loud. I mean, it's just about has to be perfect.
Yeah, and again, something like that. Like Jimmy Page is one of a few players that actually play with a bow and stuff. So, that's not something that most guitar players do. So, how do you go about learning, how to do that?
Well, there's YouTube stuff, but for me, mostly it was experimentation. Initially, until I found the right rosin, I didn't feel like there was any way to get any friction across the unwound strings.
Yeah.
Wound strings you can definitely get friction on, but if you rosin the bow properly, you can definitely hit the high strings as well. I mean, I can hit all 6 strings. The other thing about playing with the bow, the Les Paul, the bridge has just a slight arch to it, so it's really ideal for playing with a bow. And Page also played with a bow on his Telecaster, but it's a little more challenging with the Telecaster. I typically, 90% of the time, will play with the Les Paul when I play with the bow.
Oh, okay. Now let me ask you. You mentioned you had an older brother that was a drummer. So was it through him, seeing him be a musician, that you kind of wanted to pick up the guitar and learn that? And I was kind of curious, how old were you when you first started playing?
I was probably, probably 10 or 12 years old, and my brother happened to play in a band that had a great guitar player, a guy named Mark Jean, and this is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And man, he could play anything. And they were playing, Hendrix and Grand Funk and Kiss and Alice Cooper and Zeppelin, Deep Purple. So I just got exposed to all that, and my brother already played drums. drums, and I was so enamored with the guitar and what my brother's guitarist was doing that I just gravitated toward the guitar.
And now, did your folks at all try to discourage you, or being that they already had one son that was a musician, or were they kind of in favor of it, or encourage you rather?
Well, I got great parents, and they've always been supportive. They didn't necessarily like the type of music that me and my brother liked.
Yeah.
And what I think is kind of funny now is that what in the 70s and 80s, the rock music that people were trying to stamp as satanic is now just part of our culture. It's in Cadillac commercials, background music, and so it inherently there's really not anything wrong with it. It's just music.
Yeah, because to me, I mean, you take a band like Led Zeppelin, or even Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, even the Who, especially, they've got music all in different movie soundtracks and TV, and I think a lot of a reason is, even though a lot of those bands are like 40, 50 years old, the music still stands today. I mean, to me, it's like anything. Good music just typically will hold the test of time. I mean, that's why a lot of these new metal and these grunge bands, you have certain ones like anything, the good ones like Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam, they're still around, but the ones that were just kind of copycat bands, they kind of fell by the wayside. And again, getting back to bands like Led Zeppelin and The Who and Deep Purple, these are great classic rock bands we're talking about, and they made music with substance, and the lyrics meant something, and it still holds up 50 years after it was officially released. So that just talks about the talent of those bands.
Yeah, I totally agree. And growing up in that era as a guitarist, also I feel like I have a lot of advantages over younger players that grew up maybe under the grunge era with Nirvana and stuff like that. Whereas the stuff that I aspired to play when I started learning the guitar, like Jimmy Page or Jimi Hendrix, Richie Blackmore, I would be like, as I was learning, I was like, I will be lucky to learn this. I mean, these guys are so amazingly talented.
Yeah, and I was curious as a Jimmy Page fan, what have you thought about some of the stuff he's done since Zeppelin? Even like the Firm, or his 1988 solo album, or the thing he did with David Coverdale, the Coverdale Page album. Why do you think people just expected everything to sound like Zeppelin?
I think maybe John Paul Jones's role is a little bit, and his genius is maybe a little bit understated. And he was such an important part of the Zeppelin formula, and I don't know. I liked the stuff that Jimmy Page did with Coverdale the best of any of his post-Zeppelin stuff.
Yeah.
The Beatles too. I mean, to me, they didn't really ever capture the magic after post-Beatles stuff. I just don't like. George Harrison and Paul McCartney, John Lennon stuff as well after the Beatles.
Yeah, and I was curious if you had a chance to check out the CD and DVD they put out, a couple years back, Celebration Day, and what are your thoughts on that?
I really liked it. I was one of the people that, when I found out it was coming to the theaters for one night, I'm like, I'm going. So me and a buddy went and saw it on the big screen, and it was great. It was great that they got together, that they got back together. I thought the show was, really well done. Plant, he didn't try to sing like it was 1970.
Yeah.
He did what he does now with the voice that he has, and I thought it was a really good show, and I wish they were able to continue that.
Yeah, and it's a shame they don't, but, on the flip side, maybe Robert Plant knows something we don't. Maybe his voice can, carry those high notes still. Who knows? But have you had a chance to listen to any of the reissues, and what do you think about the reissues?
Yes, I bought each one as it came out, and I really like it. It's interesting to hear, I mean, for the most part, except for Led Zeppelin 1, which has live tracks as the bonus disc, all of the other ones are remixes more than early mixes that have some tracks
Yeah.
that are omitted. That is very interesting to go through that. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's crazy because you're like, how many times have I bought this album?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, now I bought it on cassette, I bought it on CD, you know, and just keep going and have on vinyl, and you know.
And, yeah, now let me ask you, Chris, because part of the reason I started doing these interviews with guys like you that play in tribute bands is twofold. Number one, there's a huge percent of the population out there that's got this big misconception that, you know, musicians and tribute bands are failed musicians. They couldn't make it doing their own original thing, which, you know, my experience, that really isn't the case. And then part two of that is I've gotten to see several tribute bands, and I've really enjoyed the shows I've been to. So I guess the next logical question is, did you ever have any reservations about doing a tribute band as opposed to doing your own original music?
For the most part, I've always played in original bands.
Yeah.
And, there's a satisfaction of writing music, your own music, and being part of an original project that you'll never get playing other people's music. And there's a percentage of people that play music that, all they do is covers, and then there's other players that will do just originals, and there's people who will do a mix of both.
Yeah.
Right now the way the music industry's at, there's such little demand for original music, and playing locally, which I've done before with original bands and stuff, it's very limited on your audience, and it's crazy how you can play. If you do it well, you can play in a tribute band, and you can get in front of a big audience, and we've done that.
Yeah, and part of it has to do with the fact that, like you're saying, you got a built-in audience. I mean, people coming to a show, they already got a built-in expectation of the songs they're going to hear and what they're going to get, and as opposed to if you were an original act, that they might be seeing for the first time, maybe they've never heard any of the stuff. It's like totally they don't know what they're going to get until the end of a show, and so there is that. But share with me how you first got this project going, the Hindenburg Project, together.
Okay. Well, we didn't set out to, let's get together and let's form a Zeppelin tribute band. I was coming off of an original project, my original project that was instrumental rock, and that was around 2011, and we decided we were going to look around for a vocalist, and I ran across Bob Brewer, who was our vocalist, on one of the local websites for musicians, and I heard his voice, and I was like, I can't believe it. I cannot believe how well this guy can do plant. So me and Randy and Brian were working together, and so we were like, maybe these recordings are a little old, can you still sing it? Got him into the rehearsal studio, and the guy could just absolutely nail plant. I mean, just absolutely. We're not tuning down any song in the catalog. So that's really where it started. It's very difficult, in my opinion, to have a great Zeppelin band if you don't have the right singer. And plant is so difficult to me. Yeah. It's so difficult to find a guy that can do that. And there is a lot of competition. Zeppelin is one of the most popular tribute bands. There's a lot of competition, nationally, and because everybody's doing it. Yeah. But for me, when I hear a Zeppelin tribute band, if the singer's not great, if he can't do Robert Plant, then I can't get past that. I can't get past that and start, looking at the musicians behind it. Yeah. So we were very fortunate to find Bob Brewer, and so that's how we started. That was 2011. Wow,
you make a very good point, because I interviewed several of these tribute bands, and one thing I've discovered is typically, probably three of the most bands that are paid tribute to are, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, obviously, and Kiss. And the thing with Kiss is you got to have the costumes and makeup for the most part, and AC/DC, AC/DC tributes are typically they've either got doing the Bon Scott era, the Brian Johnson era. There are a couple that do both. And then, there's countless, like you said, Led Zeppelin tributes, not just here across the U.S., but, around the world. And so, if you're going to have any kind of success doing that, you got to really find something that's going to make your band stand out. And I think just talking to you, Chris, the idea to, play some of these songs to the bow like Jimmy used to, you're offering the audience a little something different, because a lot of the bands don't typically do that. We're going to play the hard rock stuff, all the hits that people really hear on the radio and dig. And a lot of those bands are just like copycat bands of the tribute bands. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so,
exactly.
Yeah. And so is that kind of why you decided to do that? Like, we're going to offer the audience a little something different?
Well, I guess one of the things that I tell people, and it's really, in all of our marketing stuff, there's a lot of Zeppelin tribute bands, and when I'm looking at a tribute band or a product or anything else, the first question I ask is, what do you bring to the table that everybody else does?
Yeah.
What makes you unique? What do you guys do to that?
Yeah.
And for us, from day one, we decided we're going to do the accurate studio versions of the Zeppelin catalog. We are not going to do the live versions, and we're doing that for two reasons. One is the people that are hardcore Zeppelin fans are going to appreciate the attention to detail that we have.
Yeah.
There are songs that we play damn near note per note. Not every song is exactly note per note, but there are songs I've had people come up to me like, if that wasn't the note per note solo on Nobody's Fault, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And, so doing the studio versions accurately, the casual Zeppelin fan, those are the only versions they know.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go see another Zeppelin tribute band that does the Song Remains the Same versions, they may not, be that familiar with it. And for me personally, I think Jimmy Page's best playing was in the studio.
Yeah. And let me ask you, on a non-related note, have you ever been controversy about I don't even know the name of the band, but some other band is suing the Led Zeppelin and Jimmy Page, claiming that that Led Zeppelin stole Stairway to Heaven?
Yeah, I'm not sure what band is that they're in litigation about.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is I wonder why, when Stairway to Heaven was released, way back in the 70s, they're filing their lawsuit now. You'd think, okay, you would have heard that at least, 500,000 times on the radio. Why did you wait this long to bring your lawsuit?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, and so, like, let me ask you, as far as the Dallas tribute scene, you guys have a pretty good tribute scene there?
It is a very, very good tribute scene there. We have just about every band you could think of tribute-wise.
Yeah.
Lots of tribute bands, and when people come in and want to put together a tribute show, there's just a pool of talent.
Yeah, and you guys, like you said, you guys are based in Dallas, but I was curious, do you guys get a chance to play out of your local area much? Do you get to other states or anything like that?
Yes, we do. We've been all through Texas. We've been to Arkansas, and we just played about 3 weeks ago in Missouri at a big outdoor festival there.
Wow. And so what's it like for you when you get to go on these little, weekend gigs, even out of state or, away from home? That must be fun.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's cool just to go and play different venues, play different stages. The stage we played in Missouri has only been recently built, and it was one of the largest stages I've ever seen on the festival. And the crowds, are different every place you go.
Yeah.
The Arkansas shows we played, as well as the recent show in Missouri, was in the Ozarks, and a lot of mountain people, a lot of interesting people.
I bet. And so, what typically is the response? To the band after you must have a lot of people coming up and telling you, oh man, you guys took me back to the first time I seen Zeppelin, or man, it's almost like I seen the band in back when they were still performing.
Well, we've had a lot of great feedback. There's a lot of different responses. When we played a festival in Arkansas, we just got a ton of feedback on Facebook and about our show and stuff. And one guy said, "Hey, thanks for not wearing wigs and having fake British accents." People were saying your singer sounds just like Plant. Thanks for the accuracy and the attention to detail on the songs. And we meet people that older people that tell us what year they saw Zeppelin, what tour, and I even had a guy that said, "We saw you guys in 1975." I'm like, "Well, I think he means Zeppelin."
Yeah. Wow.
I think he means the Hindenburg Project.
Yeah, that's pretty good right there. I mean, that's the ultimate compliment you want to get. And I was curious, is there like a musical director in the band, a guy that kind of comes up with the set list, or do you guys all have a say in coming up with the set list?
Well, we have about 3 hours of music that we do, and periodically we're adding new songs. So it depends on how long we're playing. If we're playing up to 3 hours, or if we're just doing an hour or hour and a half. That'll determine the set list, and because I bring 4 guitars to every show, guitar changes are factored in. Cashmere is tuned to Dad-Gad.
Oh wow!
So I just keep a one Les Paul tuned to Dad-Gad just for Cashmere. We do When the Levee Breaks, and that's tuned to FAC. So I have a telly that I just have for Levee. So then I bring another Les Paul and another telly. So
yeah,
that's how we want to list.
Wow. And I could hear just talking to you the fun you have doing this. And does it surprise you at all, a guy that's done his own original music projects? It sounds like this is a lot more successful in the sense that because people know the songs and that you're able to get an audience a lot quicker, and as opposed if you're still doing your original thing, it might take you 5 or 6 years before you have your first hit song or something, if even that. Whereas when people come into the Hindenburg Project, they kind of have an expectation what to get, so it seems like the response is a little more immediate.
Well, and everybody's familiar with the songs when they walk in the door. And these are classic songs that people love. And I had a buddy come out to a House of Blues show we did in Dallas last year. He brought a friend with him, and during the show, he said his friend was nudging and putting his hand over his eyes, going, and then telling him basically, it just sounds exactly like the record. I just closed my eyes.
And do you guys ever videotape your shows or anything just for your own purposes of seeing how you're looking on stage and that?
We've done that. It's just, we don't video every show. There's so much that goes into setting up, for the show. I guess as of the last 3 months, I've been fortunate enough to get a guitar tech that's working with me and helping me out because I have so much stuff to set up.
And part of the reason I asked that is because a lot of these bigger tribute bands, they eventually get into merchandising, selling T-shirts and stuff. And I've seen a couple of the bands where they actually will put together like a live DVD or even a live CD of their performance. Is that anything you've ever thought with, or is this enough of a tribute for you to keep it to the stage?
I don't really know, not to knock anybody that is selling merchandise or their own DVDs or anything, but I just don't really see that as a valid product. I mean, we're paying tribute to Zeppelin. We're honoring Zeppelin's music and doing it as accurately as we can and at the highest level of musicianship, etc. But I mean, ultimately, people love Led Zeppelin. They'll appreciate, what we do and how we recreate their music, but that's not really something that I feel like we're interested in, or it's really a valid product.
And now, as far as the Dallas area, are there any other Zeppelin tributes in your area, or are you guys primarily it right now?
there has been a couple of Zeppelin tributes, and sometimes they go inactive. So there's been a couple more. There's definitely the thing about the Dallas area, is in a given year you could have Led Zeppelin 2 play, you could have Zoso play, you could have Zepparella, the all-female Zeppelin tribute, and then Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin experience. So amongst all of that, we've still been able to make it and play the House of Blues main stage.
Because again, it kind of depends on their. It depends on their area, and it's kind of interesting. Like, because even out here in LA, where I'm from, they have a couple of, they have one called Led Zepp again. They're probably the biggest Led Zepp tribute out here, and then there's another one in Los Angeles. It's an all-female one called Lady Zepp. Those are probably the two biggest ones we have right now out in this area. But it's kind of interesting. But do you ever go check out any of the other the competitions, so to speak, as far as these other Zeppelin tributes, to see what they're doing?
I have. We've played. They've paired us up at House of Blues on a couple of occasions in Dallas on the same night that Led Zeppelin 2 is playing the main stage, and so I've met several of the guys from Led Zeppelin 2 and seen their show, and I think they're really, really good.
But
they're doing the Song Remains the Same. And we're doing the studio versions.
So
I think they do it very well. And
see, and that's
Gretchen Mann of Zepparella is a very good guitarist.
And that's another thing I got to say I really admire about the tribute scene. Most guys would be like, well, you know what? You don't need to check out any other Zeppelin tribute. There's my band, and we're aces. Whereas I talked to a lot of these tribute bands, a lot of tribute bands I've interviewed and worked with. Behind the scenes, there's a real fraternity among the tribute bands where they're not necessarily competing with one another. They oftentimes try to help each other out. Even out here in LA, a lot of the tribute bands, if one band, they have a drummer down for a night, they'll call their friend that plays in maybe even a Guns N' Roses tribute and say, hey, our drummer's down tonight. Can you fill in for him? And can you learn these songs for tonight? And oftentimes they got this show out here in LA called The World's Greatest Tribute Bands. A lot of guys that have been on, they get their friends on the show, or they get their other bands foot in the door, so to speak. And that's one thing I've always admired about the tribute scene. Whereas if you're talking with the original bands, a lot of time they're competing against one another. It's one thing I always dig about these tribute bands.
There's definitely a musicians network in Dallas. I'm sure everywhere else too. And the more people you know and get to know, and there's a lot of great musicians. And I always appreciate when people treat you right and are nice and are cool. Down there, people like Andy Timmons lives in the Dallas area, and he has every right to cop an attitude, be the biggest rock star you've ever met, and he is not. He is the nicest guy that you would ever meet, and he's the standard for how you should, act if you're a musician. Not everybody follows that, unfortunately, but I just appreciate when I meet somebody that is that caliber of musician, and they're just, extremely nice, extremely down to earth. That's nice, to experience.
And so I assume, Andy Timmons, for anybody that doesn't know, he's a guitar player from this 80s tribute band, Danger Danger, and then since that band split up, he's put out some great solo albums. So that's who we're talking. So I was curious, how did you get the opportunity to meet Andy?
Well, let's see. I met him at one of my favorite guitarists is Eric Gales.
Oh, okay.
He used to be on Shrapnel Records. I don't know if you know Eric Gales.
I've heard the name. I'm aware of Shrapnel Records. So okay, that's interesting.
So he was at there was a show, and Andy Timmons played that night as well, and Andy's just hanging out, willing to talk and just talk to anybody that's there, and Eric Gales was equally as nice too. Eric Gales is an amazing.
Well, that's great to hear, and I know a lot of these tribute shows I've been to myself. A lot of times, the bands will invite fans. Hey, okay, we're coming off stage now. We're gonna go cool off for a minute or two, but we want you guys to come. We'll be out in the crowd. You come say hi, come talk to us, and that's one thing I always love about a lot of these tribute bands is. So what's that like when you have fans coming up to you after your show and telling, "Hey, man, you put on a dynamite show. That must make you feel great."
Yeah, there's a lot of satisfaction. I mean, most people don't know how many hours and hours and hours it takes to, get to the level where you can play this stuff and then to continue to work on it and get better at it. And, so, it's nice to be appreciated, and it's great to meet, new people and people who've seen Zeppelin before, and, so that's very cool.
Yeah,
we played a night at the Dallas House of Blues the same evening that Rat was playing.
Wow.
And we were playing upstairs in the Foundation room, and Stephen Piercy ended up coming up to the Foundation room and sitting in with us because he's a huge Zeppelin fan.
Oh, wow.
So we were playing, and the guy taps me on my shoulder and says, "Hey, can Stephen sit in with you guys? Dancing Days and Wanton Song."
Oh.
So.
Wow, what was that like?
I did that a couple years ago. It was awesome. I'm a big Rat fan, so it was on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
We were kind of like, well, I don't know how many people are going to come up after the show and the main stage up here to the Foundation room, but we played to 250 people. I mean, and it was surreal, playing with Stephen Piercy.
And that's totally cool because it's totally unplanned, and you had no idea until that night. And I mean, the crowd must have just went wild.
Yeah, it was really cool. I couldn't. It was really funny too because he doesn't have the range that Bob does, so he's singing Wanton Song with our singer, and kind of smiling because he can't hit the high notes,
But again, it's all in the name of rock and roll, and he's one of those guys. I mean, he's got the voice for rap music, and he may not be the best of singers, but he does what he does, and he's been doing it long enough, and he's got quite the legacy himself.
Right.
Yeah, and wow. And so let me ask you, Chris. Now you're talking about all the hard work goes into preparing just for one of these shows. Now, typically, do you show up to the gig like in your street clothes and have to change into your Jimmy Page attire, so to speak, or do you come dressed as Jimmy?
No, I come in street clothes, and we get set up, and then sound check, and then right before 15 minutes or so before we go on, we all change clothes, and I'll tell you a funny story. We started out in 2011 and really focused on the music, and about a year ago, I'm like, I'm going to try to find some more authentic Jimmy Page clothes. So I found this Hollywood memorabilia site, and this guy had just an exact replica of his black dragon suit.
Yeah.
So I emailed the guy and said, "Where did you get it? I'm looking to try to get one of those. Who made it?" And so he said, "Give me a call and we'll talk about it." And his area code was a Dallas area code. So I called him up, and make a long story short, he lived 3 minutes from my house. He was the same height and waist size, and I went over to his house and tried it on, and it was like it was custom made for me. So I bought his dragon suit. It's just authentic to the stitch. I mean, it is.
Yeah, because and the thing I gotta tell people, I think the great thing about the way you're doing your show is obviously Jimmy Page these days. He's older. He's got white hair. He doesn't look exactly like he did in the 70s and 80s. So and he's never going to look like that. So the great thing about the show you guys put on is you're kind of taking people back to the day, maybe when they heard or discovered Zeppelin for the first time. And I got to say, those photos you sent me, Chris, I was very impressed just with the look. I mean, it may not be Jimmy's identical twin, but you look decent. You look enough like him that I might think that it was him back in the day. So that's what I want to ask you next is, like a lot of these guys I interview, they don't even really care much about, just use whatever photos you want. Those photos you sent me, not only do they look very professional, but I could tell that you're a guy that cares about the presentation, the details, even in the way the pictures were taken and the way you're trying to look the part. Why is that so important to you? I mean, because again, like some guys don't take the time to pay so much attention to the details.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of photos and video that have been taken since 2011.
Uh-huh.
And, some of them are camera phone, and others are professionally shot. So, we'd like to be represented in the best possible light, and those are the best, some of the best photos on different stages and different size crowds, and so I just want to really care about the details. So
that's great. That's great. And I was equally impressed with the you got the band's logo is pretty cool looking. Is there somebody that designed that in the band? That's an artist, or who designed the logo?
We actually we went with an online company to design that logo.
Oh, okay.
We wanted it to have the obviously the Zeppelin Hindenburg in
Yeah.
there, and then have a guitar and the design, and so that's how that came about.
And then even the Les Paul that I see you play looks very much like what Jimmy plays. Is that something that you had in your collection, or something you bought just once you started this band?
Yeah, that's one that I bought after we started this band.
Mm-hmm.
I have, like most guitar players, I don't have one guitar. I've been playing guitar a long time, so I have, different guitars, but I definitely enjoy playing the Les Paul just as much as I enjoy playing the Telly. And a lot of people don't realize how much Jimmy Page played the Telly in the studio, as well as he played it this first tour. With the Telecaster.
And let me ask you another thing that I would think would keep this interesting and fresh for you is like you said, Led Zeppelin plays various different styles. They got everything from Stairway to Heaven, When the Levee Breaks, Heartbreaker, Black Dog, rock and roll. Is that something you enjoy? That it's not all full blown on rock music all the time. You get a little bit. Yes, a lot, so much to pick from, so to speak, as far as what you're going to put in the set list.
Yeah, it does, and there are some tribute bands. Sometimes the venues require you to play it, 3 hours. It depends where you're playing, but the band they're doing a tribute to, the catalog isn't that deep, and so the Zeppelin catalog is so varied, and like I said, it's so cool for me to be able to play slide and play with a bow and play in, alternate tunings, and play with the theremin during Whole Lotta Love. And one of the other things I want to mention, Randy Renew, our bassist, he has a synth pedal that he uses to recreate some of the keys.
Oh, okay, cool.
In studio recordings.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, because they're a band that always had keyboards in a lot of their stuff as well. Okay, and so now let me ask you, Chris.
He can do that. He can do that, and play bass at the same time. We're not doing looping on any pre-recorded stuff. He just has different patches when we're playing certain songs, and he can add when we do Since I've Been Loving You. I mean, he just subtly brings in that organ. And it's really cool.
And let me ask you, Chris. Like, obviously, you're doing a great job paying tribute to Jimmy and Led Zeppelin. But, you ever get in your rock star mode when you're up on stage? Like, you ever get like in the Jimmy Page mode? Like, you believe that you're playing the part, so to speak, and you got to play the tunes just as he did. Or do you ever try to put your kind of little playing style into the way you play the tunes?
Well, that's funny because when I first started, doing the Hindenburg Project, one of the first things I really came to grips with was I'm going to have to take my style out of this.
Yeah.
If I'm going to pay tribute to Jimmy Page, I'm going to, as much as I can, take my own style out of it. And I think you can do that to a point, but the thing that makes the guitar, in my opinion, the greatest instrument is that two guys can play the same notes and it sounds unique, completely different. It's just so analog, and it's just so individual. So as much as I can, I try to take out my own playing and play as much like Jimmy as I can. But I have my vibrato and my bends. But I still try to keep it in the vibe of Jimmy.
Yeah, and I was curious. A lot of these tribute bands have they found success in other ways. In the sense that I know a couple of these tribute bands have appeared in movies and stuff. I was curious if you ever approached about maybe appearing as Jimmy Page in a movie, playing the part. Is that something you'd ever want to do, or you pretty much just want to keep it to this one tribute band?
I guess we're open to any opportunities that come our way. So I could tell you we've had a really, really varied experience in all the different places and opportunities we've played. We've done live TV. We did a Fox morning show.
Oh, okay. Wow.
In Lubbock. We played on live TV. We've done weddings. We did a wedding in Austin where we're under very strict instructions. Now, when he says, you may kiss the bride, then you guys start playing the ocean, and we're going to bring the party this way. And
Wow. That's like when you guys make an appearance like on Fox Television. You in an event like that, you have a lot more people come to check out the next show or whatever in the area.
Well, we did it at the Fox 4 affiliate in Lubbock on their morning show, and it was on a Friday morning to promote the Saturday evening show, and we played out at the Cactus Theater. Wow. And it was very well attended and fantastic venue out there.
And again, I was curious if you guys, when you're traveling, even after a show, and you're still in your costume, you ever go out and just people in the general public not knowing, that must be some big rock band. You ever get mistaken for being some major rock band or anything like that?
I've had people, just say you have to be in a band.
Yeah.
You have to be some sort of musician. Just by looking at me. But I definitely don't go around wearing the dragon suit.
No.
When we play, I take it off.
And do you do this full time? Are you a full time musician, or are you like a lot of people, like a working musician that has a day job?
I would love to be a full time musician, and but the reality is I'm not. I have a day job. I'm a web developer, and it seems to me that most of the people I know that are full time musicians usually have an enabler behind the scenes that's floating their financial boat. And
well, let me tell you, Chris, nothing wrong with that. I got all respect for somebody that's working, because it's success is different things to different people. But even where you are right now with the Hindenburg Project, sounds like you're doing what you enjoy somewhat, and you're somewhat successful at it. And so there's something to be said for that. And if you have to have a day job to support what you do and support your family, so so be it. More power to you, because I believe any success you have in life, it doesn't most of the time come without a lot of hard work and dedication. So all the more power to you to still be doing this, and it must be a great way to get your angst out on the weekends and stuff. Have your 9-to-5 job or whatever, and then go do this on the weekend.
Yeah, and it's I've got friends over the years that have just given up on music because it's so much work.
Yeah.
And I've got a family, and I obviously enjoy spending time with them.
Yeah.
They're my top priority. I've got a day job, but I just burn the candle at both ends, basically, because I love to play guitar, and that may mean that I'm going to have to cut out an hour of sleep here and there a night, but I just love playing guitar. Whether I'm playing in a band or not playing in a band, I'll always be playing guitar.
That's totally cool. I love to hear about it. Now, the very last thing I'd like to ask you is, you're talking earlier about you at various times in your life done your own original music thing, and that part of that is your desire to be creative. So as great as the Hindenburg Project is, do you still like get in the studio and record stuff just to be creative and put stuff down on tape? Is there any chance you might ever like release a CD of your own original music or anything like that?
Well, I have. I've been releasing music. I have 4 instrumental CDs that I've released over the years, and they actually span all different genres. But my most one of my most recent rock ones is called Symmetry, and you can find it on CD Baby, Amazon, iTunes. If you just type in Chris Manning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm glad I asked, Chris, because besides doing the tribute interviews, I also do interviews for another magazine. I'll send you the link. It's called Chaotic Riffs. You can find it at www.chaoticriffs.com. It's more like metal and hard rock stuff and original things. But whenever I interview people, I always ask, hey, do you got anything else going? And if so, I'd like to help you promote it. So anything on any of your other projects, feel free to email me about it. Maybe we could do a separate interview about that. I'd love to help you get the word out about that as well.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, and before we end this, Chris, because I really enjoyed talking to you tonight, is there anything else you'd like to say to all the people that are listening to this?
Just, if you have the opportunity to check us out, online or in Dallas in person, or if we're, playing in the city near you, definitely be worth checking out. I put us up against anybody else that's doing Zeppelin, and just would love to meet with new people. And
okay, well, once again, Chris, I've really enjoyed talking to you. You guys had as far as the band Hindenburg Project, seems like you have a great story that you shared with us tonight. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to talk to you about it. The interview itself will probably be going on about a week, probably by the end of a week or so. I'll let you know the minute it goes up. Be sure to tell all your friends and family about it and your fans. And so I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to do this. I can't thank you enough. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye-bye. You have a good night.